Alright guys, so this is going to be my review of World of Krypton. This was another DC comic that came from my good friend Chris. Chris, thank you once again for this comic. And yeah, so let's dive into this comic. So what is the World of Krypton? Well, the World of Krypton is exactly what you think it is. It's a story about the world of Krypton, but it is not about the apocalypse that ended Krypton. Although, yes, that does play a factor into it. This is like supposed to be the years leading up to its destruction. It's not like the final, but here's the thing. The finale of this comic is not them of Krypton being destroyed and the rocket going off to space. No, this is like, we're like months away from Krypton's end. But this follows like I think, roughly 10-year period. The final 10 years of Krypton. And what happened in between. So as you imagine, the story, of course, focuses on Jor-El, his wife Laura, and Zod. And of course, with mixing Zod and Jor-El together, it's not a good time for anyone. What I also like about this comic is that it actually gives a lot of character to Jor-El's brother, aka Kara's father. And they actually mention baby Kara here because I think a lot of people forget that like Kara was meant to be older than Kal. Kal just got to Earth first, and the space-time dilation allowed him to grow up, whereas Kara was just out in space, not aging very slowly. So yeah, technically speaking, yeah, Kara was a teenager when she saw Krypton die, and I think a lot of people forget that. Anyway, so yes, the story does follow Jor-El kind of following, all the signs pointing to the end of Krypton, and more or less also following Zod as he becomes more militaristic and begins a long campaign to bring order to Krypton. What I like about this comic is, like I said, it gives more character to the House of Zod. It gives more character to to Jor-El, as well as his brother, as well as Laura. Laura gets to have a lot of agency in this comic, and I really do like that there is some... also, the writer of this comic was Robert Venditti, who I like when he's on Superman books. I didn't like a lot of his Green Lantern books, but I do like his Superman stuff. I did like his Christopher Reeve Superman 76 comic, so it's a nice little thing to follow. I do like that this does kind of follow that, like, Krypton is a society that has kind of become more lackluster in its, and even now, like in the final years of Krypton's, before Krypton is falling, the people are just like, whatever. They're kind of apathetic to it. It's almost like people being apathetic to our own planet having in the middle of a mass extinction effect. Anyway, I also do enjoy like the deep cuts to Superman stuff, because one of the main things that comes up in here is the story of Kru-El. If you don't know who Kru-El is, Kru-El, and God, yes, that is his name. Kru-El is Jor-El's cousin, who was considered the black sheep of the family, in that he tried to take over the House of El by killing Jor, who was the head of the House of El. And so yeah, there's a nice deep cut to Kru-El in here. We get to see more of like what Zod is capable of. He's an old soldier who wants one big fight, but in his attempt to save Krypton from itself is leading to even more war and devastation on his behalf. Jor-El is a scientist, and this comic is more dialogue heavy because no one has superpowers. There is fighting in here, but it's few and far between. It's very, like I said, it's very few and far between, and more about talking about, like, the world of Krypton and the end times are coming for the planet. This gives a lot of agency to Laura, which I like. We usually just see her as Kal's mother, and that's really it. Whereas, Jor-El gets all the, attention. But yeah, this comic is pretty interesting. I will say that it's very dialogue heavy, which I don't mind, but At the same time, I was just kind of like, and here we get to my negatives. First off, the artwork I'm not a fan of. I get that they were trying to go for like a sci-fi kind of feel, but it's just the angles and all of that, like the subject matter. I feel like it could have benefited more from the artwork you see on the cover, because the artwork you see on the cover and the artwork you see in the comic, yeah, two very different things. I can only imagine reading this in seeing issue 1 of World of Krypton and seeing how good the cover art is. Then you open the book and oh, that's a drop. The other thing that kind of bothers me about this book is that it suffers from prequel-itis, where it tries to explain literally everything in this comic. Like, where did Jor-El find Crypto? Or, how did Jor-El find the Phantom Zone? Things like that. Like, it tries to do... Now, the Phantom Zone thing I can accept, because, yeah... and how they show that how Jor-El found the Phantom Zone is kind of neat, and how he wanted to use it instead of trapping people in there. He wanted to use it as like a safe rescue point for Kryptonians until he realized, oh god, this is a nightmare. I don't want to be part of this. But stuff like Crypto and a few other things that made me go, oh, you just did that because it's a prequel and you just wanted to explain that. You could argue that this is in monotonous continuity, and really some other writer's going to come along and change things. God knows Krypton has never been consistent in Superman lore. But, yeah, so it's a decent read, nothing too special, but, yeah, it's alright. Anyway, I'd like to thank Chris for this comic. Chris, thank you once again for this comic. And if you've read World of Krypton, let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of it. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.